We now continue with episode 2 of the Gulf Crisis, The Road to War. Unable to count on the support of Congress, the administration turned to the United Nations.
When we began discussions about going to the Security Council for a resolution authorizing the use of force, it was quite clear that that would give us such a boost in terms of international public opinion, but also domestic public opinion and public opinion with the Congress, because it would put us, frankly, in the position of being able to say to a congressman who would not vote for this, you mean you're not willing to support the president, but the Prime Minister of Ethiopia will support the president? I mean, so it really was important if we felt we could get it. It was decided that I would visit with each and every government on the Security Council, the most important being the Soviet Union, because we felt that if we could get the Soviet Union to agree to the use of force, China would not veto.
When he got in there and he sat down with Shevardnadze to begin the day, Shevardnadze said, "Have you really thought about what it means to use force? Have you asked all the right questions?" And the implication was, look, I have my own memories of what our military told us about Afghanistan. And are you confident that you can use force and be successful? Because he said, if you go down this path, and we're going to go down it with you, or at least I'm going to suggest that we go down it with you, the critical factor here is that you must succeed. You must use force, and it must be decisive, and it must be unmistakable what the outcome is. So are you confident that you can do that?
He was asking questions about how long did we think it would take, what did we think would be required, and so we had General Howie Graves, who traveled then frequently with me, and was on my delegation during this trip. We had him actually come in and give Shevardnadze a rather detailed briefing of our military plans, something that probably was unprecedented to have again. The United States briefing the Soviet Union in detail on its possibly prospective military operations.
And then Shevardnadze went and called Gorbachev, and he told us he was going to go out and see Gorbachev before we went out and saw him. And we then traveled out to Gorbachev's dacha outside of Moscow.
Well, I remember that when we began the meeting, I remember President Gorbachev saying, well, the first thing we must do is to stick together.
If we let a thug like this get away with what he's done, then there'll be no hope for the kind of new international reality that we would like to see.
He said, we will have difficulty with this, the idea that you're going to go in there, because after all, the force that's going to be used is American forces, and you're asking the Soviet Union to vote to approve the use of American force against a longtime ally of the Soviet Union. I mean, to sell this to their military and to their public after 40 years of looking at the United States as evil incarnate was not the easiest thing in the world.
Gorbachev suggested that, well, maybe what would be useful would be two resolutions. One resolution that would authorize the use of force, but a second resolution later on that would allow you to implement that resolution.
To do two resolutions, the way Gorbachev initially suggested, would mean that we would have to take this very difficult issue of the use of force twice to the Security Council, and we thought that would be an almost impossible burden to overcome.
And the Secretary said, with something of this sort, it's important that we do it at the same time. We can build in a time period. We can have one resolution and say it doesn't actually become operative until a certain date.
But what concerned me mostly is that the date that was agreed upon was 15th of January, and there we were at the end of November. That tantamounts to telling a burglar who's coming to your home, well, you stay in my home, loot, kill, torture, rape, whatever you want. I will not dial 911 until 6 weeks from now.
Setting a pause for peace period in there until January 15, giving Saddam Hussein that much time, was something that the Soviets and some others really insisted upon if they were going to vote for the resolution to use force.
I think when we left there, we felt fairly confident that we had them on board. We didn't have a firm commitment. Certainly the indications from Shevardnadze and Gorbachev's body language was such that they were clearly very strongly inclined to do this.
The administration set off in search of support. President Bush spent Thanksgiving in Saudi Arabia eating turkey with the troops.
People at home say, we don't need more Vietnam. That's right. There won't be any. Anybody's asked to fight, they're going to fight and win.
There would be no turkey dinner for Secretary Baker.
Thanksgiving Day, Secretary Baker and a few of us went to Yemen, Sana'a, and spent Thanksgiving Day. I'm not sure that President Saleh knew it was Thanksgiving for us, negotiating with him and having a meal with him, trying to get the Yemeni vote in the Security Council for the critical resolution on the use of force. As we left, President Saleh said Yemen was undecided on its position, and one Yemeni official remarked as we walked out, well, everything has its price.
1 week later, the Security Council met to vote on a resolution authorizing the use of force against Iraq.
Those who have breached the peace should know that all necessary means will indeed inexorably be used against them.
A few minutes before the session convened, the Yemeni ambassador told me that his instruction was to vote against the resolution. And I told Secretary Baker that, and then went back to the Yemeni ambassador and told him to tell Sana'a that that would be a grievous mistake and possibly also very costly, since we then had an aid program for Yemen and a number of our friends also did.
The war option would deprive humanity of an historic opportunity.
The concluding line in the permanent representative from Yemen's speech was something to the effect, we should give peace a chance. And I'm sure the Iraqis and others were clapping in the balcony there watching the proceedings, and I did say that I thought that might be the most expensive applause that he would receive. And it has been somewhat expensive.
Yemen and Cuba voted against the resolution. The next day, all U.S. aid to Yemen was canceled. Committees lobbying abroad had paid off.
This meeting is adjourned. We're now faced with a lot of questions from the American people, from congressional leaders and others. And it was very important to the President felt that we be able to show that we had left no stone unturned for peace, that we were not just willy-nilly going off to war without being willing to make a major effort.
He was pretty clear in his own mind what was going to have to be done, and that is the use of force, and unless Saddam Hussein simply caved, and he did not think that would be the case. But he said, I want to make sure that I've left no stone unturned, and I don't want people to be able to say, well, if you had only done this. The President said, therefore, I want to offer direct talks.
To go the extra mile for peace, I will issue an invitation to Foreign Minister Tariq Aziz to come to Washington at a mutually convenient time during the latter part of the week of December 10th to meet with me. In addition, I'm asking Secretary Jim Baker to go to Baghdad to see Saddam Hussein.